That could be actually an indication of something that I think was part of the reason for the destruction of Rome. You know, and Nietzsche wrote about this a fair bit.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine you have a relatively homogenous local community. Let's call it Christendom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, there's a lot of fractionation inside Christendom and a lot of factions fighting. But roughly speaking, there's an overarching ethos, which is Christian in its essence. And even the warring parties agree on many things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but now you expand and you encounter, well, the Chinese, let's say, and you encounter the Indians, the actual Indians, these sophisticated alternative societies, the Buddhists, the Muslims, who have cultural traditions as sophisticated and rich as your own. Well, so Nietzsche's take on that was twofold. He said, well, first of all, you think you're right to begin with, but part of the reason you think you're right is because you don't know any other ideas. It's like 14th century Christians didn't believe Christian things. They weren't like Enlightenment rationalists who adopted Christian superstition. I mean, they looked at the universe through a Christian lens. There wasn't another viewpoint apart from a couple of secular people and some heretics. It was like the world was Christian.
That's your frame of reference.
That's everything about it. That's that. You know, you see. Yeah, there's no contrary philosophy. Okay, now you expand. Well, and you're also doing this with regards to the Enlightenment discoveries and scientific. And now there's like 8 competing viewpoints, each of which has the same depth, let's say. And so at some point you have a terrible case of indigestion. And then Nietzsche says something even more subtle than that. He says, well, you know, first of all, there's a monolithic worldview. And so you're pretty secure about that because that's just the way things are. Then you encounter these competing belief systems and they're pretty compelling, and competing ethical systems as well. Mm-hmm. And then it starts to become a question when it never was. Who's right? Well, good luck sorting that out. That's what wars are for, right? It's really hard to sort that out. But then Nietzsche says something even more interesting. He said, well, you have belief system 1, and then you encounter belief system 2, and you see there's a conflict, and it isn't obvious who's right. Then you add belief system 3 in there, and you think, it's not just that there's a conflict in belief systems. It's that the idea that there's an absolute truth itself, or even truth itself, now becomes questionable. That's when moral relativism makes its ugly appearance, and nihilism. And so not only do you lose faith in your initial unquestioned presuppositions, but you lose faith in the idea of certainty itself. And then you have no strength. I mean, I think part of the reason the Romans couldn't withstand the barbarians, let's say, is because they died of indigestion. Like there was no unity of purpose anymore because they had bitten off more than they can chew. And you could certainly, I think, part of the reason the UK is in the dreadful situation that it's in now is exactly because of that. It's like when you go to India and you're a little island and there's hardly any of you, and you go invade India, it's a real toss-up who's invaded who. Like you might have the upper hand for 50 years, but when you're outnumbered by a factor of, 100 at least, who's going to win that contact is by no means obvious.